Hi, I'm Sandy from Lightning Tools, and I'm here again with Brett in a new location, or
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
anyway.
yep. So you're back down in Florida, and
Yes.
well, I've just moved across into our sales office, so we're still rattling around the office here. We've gone from 2 floors to 1 floor, but we still have about 8 desks for 2 of us. So
Mm.
yeah, we can afford to move around a bit.
Oh, that's nice. You could just have a little change of scenery whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll be
Exactly.
changing mine soon. I'm getting an actual desk in about a week. I ordered one, so yeah, I'll move to a different spot in this room and maybe hang some pictures on the wall.
Sounds perfect. Good, good.
Yep.
So we're talking a bit about DeliverPoint. So we have
Yes.
a DeliverPoint release available this month,
Yep. I'm
and
excited
possibly,
about this one.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've got some great enhancements to the standard version of DeliverPoint for SharePoint Online, and we are also very close to releasing an enterprise version of the same product as well. And that enterprise version gives you some abilities to schedule some of the reports, like the discover
Mm.
permissions and the sharing link reports and so on, so that if you are doing them over a large scope, with potentially hundreds of thousands of documents or something to
Mm.
that effect, it's something that you can schedule. But
Mm.
we've also got some great enhancements that we're ready to show you today in the standard version of DeliverPoint.
Cool. So it's not quite released yet, but right, but will be soon. So you get a sneak peek here.
This is a sneak peek, and if you want to see it in more depth as well, we've got the webinar on the 24th of
Right.
March.
Okay.
So that's just next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be able to dive in deeper in that as well.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Let's see. Oh,
Yeah, I guess
sorry.
it's worth just
Yeah.
mentioning,
Sorry.
what DeliverPoint is
Oh, sure.
for anybody that is not familiar. So DeliverPoint is our permissions management and reporting tool, and it's not your average permissions management and reporting tool where it's only catering for a SharePoint administrator of sorts, or for IT to be able to govern permissions across an entire SharePoint environment. This is something that is catering for the decentralized permissions management model. So if you happen to be a site owner, or if you have full control to that site, or even to some content within the site, you can use DeliverPoint on that content. So in other words, we're actually working exactly the same way as SharePoint does natively. So if you get to see the site settings or the site information, and you can drill down to site permissions using SharePoint, then you'll be able to do the same using DeliverPoint as well. So everything is security trimmed in that regard, which is great. And it also gives you that centralized permissions
Mm.
piece as well.
Mm.
Is that what you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, so if it's doing the exact same thing SharePoint is doing, why would I use DeliverPoint?
Okay. Well, yeah, you in SharePoint have to do things on an object at a time, and you sometimes have to dig in deep as well to different groups and so on to actually see who the members are. So take, for example, when you create a SharePoint site, you get 3 different groups. By default, you've got your owners and members and visitors groups. And inside of those groups, nowadays, if you create a new team or a new SharePoint site that's not a subsite,
Mm.
it'll be a new site collection with brand new groups. You won't be inheriting any permissions from anywhere, and you'll have some Microsoft 365 groups as well. And inside of those Microsoft 365 groups, you can actually nest AD security groups and so
Mhm.
on. So permissions can get quite complex. And when you use SharePoint natively to look at who's got permissions, you're only actually going to see that those groups have permissions initially. So you'll have to go into the advanced settings to go into those groups to see who's a member of those groups, and you can't see who's a member of the AD security groups. So really, you won't have full confidence that you know who's permissioned against your SharePoint site.
Mhm.
And that's where DeliverPoint really comes in. It kind of reverses that way of producing that report, where we show everybody that is permissioned, and then you can filter down to the what you want to see. So you can filter
Mhm.
down on permission level, or you can filter down on group membership and that type of thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
so
can't tell. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to where they were really surprised to find out who actually has permission to their
yeah,
content.
yeah. In fact, I had probably the worst case scenario on a demo once, and somebody actually realized they said the words that their site was really tied down and only a few people had permissions, and then when they used DeliverPoint, they realized that the everyone group had
Oh,
permissions,
jeez.
so it wasn't tied down at all. But yeah. So let's take a look
Okay.
at some of the new enhancements, and there's two main ones that we're going to look at here. Yeah, hopefully, Sandy, you can tell me whether you're seeing my screen.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, inside of SharePoint, then what we have is a SharePoint site here. So this is a modern communication site. We're going to dive down into a modern SharePoint site, and this is actually a hub. It has some associated sites and so on with it too. And I want to report on some of the permissions. So as a site owner, I can actually access some of the shortcuts to some of these reports. And one of the reports is a permission summary, as this is brand new to DeliverPoint. Before, we would maybe start off with something like discover permissions, and that would just show you who's permissioned to the site itself.
Mhm.
And you could go through and check that out. You can make changes and so on if you want to. So yeah, we can select a row, do things like the transfer permissions and things like that between different users. So there's the ability to manage it within inside that site. And we can also use that same report from within inside lists and libraries and so on. So if we wanted to have a look at who's permissioned on the library, we could discover the permissions there. We can also select multiple files and folders and discover permissions at that level as well. So these are some of the different reports that we'd do. There is a sharing links report also that you can run at the site level, and that will show you what sharing links exist within inside the site. So even down to folder or item level, and we can see for this particular example, this folder here has actually been shared with these people, and we can see that one of those people is actually me, but it's my Gmail account. So that's an external user and so on. So there's some great information there, and you can go through and remove those sharing
Mhm.
links and things like that if you want to. So whilst those reports are fantastic and save a considerable amount of time, sometimes a good place to start off is to actually have a look at the permission summary, and that's what we've created. So we can go in here and you can choose from each of these different reports. So there's things like a unique objects count. So that's how many folders or items or lists or libraries inside your site have broken permission inheritance.
Mm.
So it's giving me the count on that, but still also the ability to drill in and actually see which of those objects we're talking about. And then you can produce the permission reports from there. And we do a similar sort of thing with the top scopes with unique objects. So this will sort of put it in order of where those objects are. So things like a document library, if it had a lot of broken permission inheritance, we'd see all of those. And likewise with things
Awesome.
like sharing links and so on too. And yeah, unlicensed users, external users, all of these are sort of common scenarios where we want to see that information.
Mhm.
So as I generate that, we get this high-level report. So right at the very top is that info about the top unique sites. So there's there's 3 lists with unique permissions. There's 12 items with unique permissions. There's 2 items with a sharing link. So from here we can actually now have a look at what are those sharing links.
Mm. I love this.
And yeah, and that takes me into that same report that you saw me run a moment ago, but I'd have had to have sort of suspected that there was sharing links inside the site to maybe want to
Right.
warrant
Right.
running it
Right.
before. Now I see it as part of the summary. And the other advantage is we actually have a tabbed interface now, so I can keep that sharing links report open whilst also maybe looking at what unique items do I have? What items with broken permission inheritance do I have inside this site? So
Mm.
now I get that information as well. So I've got both of those tabs open. And from here, with these sites and items with unique permissions, we can drill in further. So maybe, I spot the word legal in there, thinking, well, why would something called legal have unique permissions? So now we can actually go in and maybe discover the permissions on that object, and that becomes another tab that we have open. So we
That's
start
great.
to build up all this really useful information on screen,
Mm.
so we can view all of that content.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so there's the sites, the lists, the folders in here. each with a count of how many unique objects are in each of those scopes as well. So I could see, you know, there's one item in this folder that has unique permissions, for example. So again, sort of, if you consider how much time that is saving you just from actually knowing that it has unique permissions or contains things with unique permissions, that in itself will take a lot of time, let alone who's got permissions to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we've got that same sort of thing going on with the sharing links as well. Now that's just running in the site. You can, if you want, open up the tree view, and this allows us to maybe close these tabs actually, so we don't get too confused as to what's going on. But we can select, you know, an entire site collection or multiple site collections, and still run that permission summary report at a larger scope. So if we run that at site collection level now, we get to see even more options, even more reports, because we're covering an entire site collection. And like I say, we could span multiple site collections as well if we wanted to.
Very, very cool.
So yeah, that's the main new features of DeliverPoint. So
Cool.
we'll dive into all of the features during the webinar with a focus on some of those new features too. So yeah, if you want to get yourself registered on that one, you can find the link in the notes, or you'll
Yes.
also find it on the website too.
Yep. Yeah, I'm used to whenever I'm onboarding new clients, I always recommend to them to just start with that Discover Permissions report up in the corner, because it's the easiest thing to get a quick report. But now I'll change that to definitely running the permission summary report. That's such a great report.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of other things that we're going to look into doing with this as well. So the permission summary report can also start to include further reports. So of course, if you're using classifications around content, so if you've got things marked as highly confidential or sensitive and that sort of things, or your sensitivity labels, yeah, that's something that will also start to show inside that summary report. So we might be able to see, well, just like I saw that document called legal, and then I looked at who's got permissions to it. If we had a document that was flagged as being highly confidential and I saw it had unique permissions, that could be the alarming factor that allows me to dive in and have a look at who's got permissions to it, and maybe run things like the sharing links report against that item and so on as well.
Cool.
So yeah,
Great.
some great features in there, and some more to come too.
Yep. And that'll be coming out by the end of the month.
Yes, it will. Yep. Yeah, it's all ready to go. So we're just writing some documentation and that sort of thing around it, and that will be pushed out.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah. So existing customers can update to this new version for free if they have an existing subscription, and new customers would be, or people who don't yet have DeliverPoint, would be able to download a free 30-day trial and test it out in their own tenant and see some of the permission summary reports on their own content and find out what's really going on.
Yeah, and depending on the size of your environment, you know, 30 days might be long enough for you to fix all your permission issues.
Okay.
It's
Maybe.
that quick.
Cool.
All right. Fantastic. Well, it's good to chat with you again, Sandy,
Yes,
and
same.
look forward to talking more about what we're up to here at Lightning Tools next week.
Yep. Thanks, Brett. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Sandy.
Bye.
Bye.